A home is supposed to be a sacred promise, especially for people who've served their country. But what happens when that promise gets shattered? We're going to dive into a pretty catastrophic failure in housing for military veterans and uncover a system that, honestly, seems almost designed to strip power away from the very people it was supposed to help.
Okay, just imagine this. You pour your entire life savings into a home after decades of service to your country, and then a court orders it to be demolished because it's just not safe to live in. And this isn't some made-up story. This is real. This actually happened. So the big question is, how on earth does a welfare project, something designed to help heroes, go so wrong? That's what we're digging into today.
All right, so to really get how this promise was broken, we first have to understand what the promise was. Let's go back to the beginning, back to the really noble idea that kicked this whole thing off.
So, back in 1978, the Army Welfare Housing Organization, or AWHO, was created. And the idea behind it was actually brilliant. Use the Army's own efficiency to build homes for its veterans. Super simple. And the key thing, the absolute core of the mission, was this. It was all done on a no-profit, no-loss basis. It wasn't about making money. It was a promise, a pact. This was the foundation.
But that noble promise started to fall apart. And what the sources we're looking at argue is that this wasn't just some accident or a bit of bad luck. Nope. It was the result of a system, a structure that we can call the architecture of powerlessness. And it's built on 3 key pillars. Let's break them down.
Pillar number 1 is what we're calling the military fortress. See, AWHO isn't run like a real estate company. It's run like a military unit. The board is made up of serving generals who appoint themselves. And who are they accountable to? The chain of command all the way up to the top. The one group they have zero accountability to, you guessed it, the veterans who are actually paying for everything. That's a massive conflict of interest baked right into the system from day one.
Okay, pillar number 2, the welfare shield. This one's pretty wild. AWHO has basically gone to court again and again arguing that because they're a no-profit, no-loss welfare group, they're special, that the normal laws that protect every other home buyer, well, they just shouldn't apply to them. They've tried to turn their noble mission into a legal shield to avoid responsibility. It's a tactic that, thankfully, the courts haven't been buying.
And that brings us to pillar 3, the black box. By claiming it's a private society, AWHO gets to dodge transparency laws like the Right to Information Act. Now just think about that for a second. You can't ask the most basic questions about the home you're paying for. Who's the builder? What are the actual costs? Is my money going where it's supposed to? For these veterans, it's a total information vacuum, a complete blackout.
So when you put all these pillars together, you get what we're calling the veteran's paradox. It's just stunning. You pay for 100% of the costs. You take on 100% of the risk if something goes wrong. But you get zero control and you receive zero information. I mean, it's a system that seems perfectly engineered to leave you completely powerless.
Okay, so that's the theory, right? That's the system on paper. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, the evidence from courtrooms all over the country, it's pretty damning.
I mean, just look at this pattern. This isn't just one bad project. We're talking about a court in Kerala ordering the complete demolition of a building because of structural defects. Another case, which went all the way to the Supreme Court, found a 7-year delay and called the organization's conduct below the belt. You look from Delhi to Tamil Nadu, and it's the same story over and over. Illegal contract clauses, huge delays, systemic failures. And this isn't just hearsay. This is all confirmed by the highest courts in the land.
And remember that welfare shield defense we talked about? The whole "we're special" argument? Well, the courts have just demolished it time and time again. The Kerala High Court put it perfectly, saying welfare status does not reduce responsibility. In fact, it does the opposite. It means you should be held to an even higher standard, not a lower one. Absolutely.
So yeah, the system is clearly deeply broken. The big question is, can it be fixed? Well, the source material we're drawing from argues that yes, it can. And the solution is actually pretty straightforward. It's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
Let's just look at the 2 models side by side. The contrast is night and day. On the one hand, you've got the current military hierarchy. On the other, the proposed model, a democratic cooperative. So, instead of self-appointed generals on the board, you have veteran members who elect their own board. Instead of being accountable to the top brass, the board is accountable to the homeowners. It's a complete shift in power, from top-down control to bottom-up democracy.
And what's so cool about this one change is that it creates this domino effect that solves everything. First, accountability. An elected board that doesn't deliver, it gets voted out. Simple as that. Second, transparency.
Cooperative laws require financial audits and open records. Boom, the black box is gone. And finally, member control. With the simple principle of one member, one vote, the power finally rests with the homeowners themselves, right where it should have been all along.
So really, this all boils down to a fundamental choice.
Here's the crucial takeaway. Look, winning an individual court case is good. It might get you some compensation. It's a bandage on the wound. But it doesn't cure the disease. It doesn't fix the broken system that's just going to create more of the same problems down the line. If you really want to restore the rights of these veterans, you have to change the very structure, the DNA of the whole organization.
So at the end of the day, this whole thing really comes down to one big question. What is true welfare? Is it a promise handed down from the top, one that you just have to trust? Or is it a right that comes from the bottom up, something that you can actually control and defend? And if this long, hard fight for veterans' housing rights teaches us anything, it's this. Real welfare? It's not charity. It's empowerment.